Friends, let's talk about tariffs. No, don't change the channel. It's more exciting than it sounds, I promise. Imagine tariffs like a cover charge at the door of a country. You want to bring your fancy German cars or your delicious Chinese electronics in? Pay up! Governments use these taxes on imported goods for a few reasons. Sometimes they want to protect their own industries. Think of it like putting a little muscle behind Made in America. Other times, it's about making money for the government. And then there's using tariffs as a bargaining chip, like a toddler threatening to throw their sippy cup if they don't get more juice. Spoiler alert, it can get messy. The thing is, tariffs aren't just about numbers. They're about relationships. They can make friends out of trading partners or turn them into enemies faster than you can say trade war. And believe me, nobody wins in a trade war. Except maybe the guy who sells I Survived the Trade War t-shirts. Tariffs have been around longer than skinny jeans and avocado toast. We're talking way back. Like when people thought the earth was flat and Instagram influencers communicated via carrier pigeon. Back then, if you wanted spices from the east or fabrics from the west, you had to pay a toll to get them through various kingdoms and empires. It was like a medieval game of Oregon Trail, but with fewer dysentery deaths and more silk. As global trade grew, so did the importance of tariffs. Countries used them to protect their own industries, raise money for wars, and generally make life difficult for their rivals. It was like a never-ending game of economic chess, with each move affecting the entire board. And sometimes those moves led to some pretty dramatic checkmates. Remember that time the United States decided to slap a bunch of tariffs on imported goods, thinking it would protect American jobs? Well, it backfired spectacularly. We're talking about the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930, a piece of legislation so infamous it would make even a used car salesman blush. The idea was to help American farmers and businesses during the Great Depression, but instead, it triggered a global trade war, with other countries retaliating with their own tariffs. The result? Global trade plummeted, unemployment skyrocketed, and the Great Depression became a whole lot greater. It was like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. Not exactly a shining moment in economic history. And let's not forget the Tariff of Abominations in 1828. This little gem was designed to protect northern industries, but it ended up infuriating the South and nearly tearing the country apart. It was like a family Thanksgiving dinner gone wrong, but with higher stakes and more cotton. The lesson here? Tariffs can have unintended consequences, like really big, economy-crippling consequences. Fast forward to the 21st century, and we have a new player in the tariff game, Donald J. Trump. Now, love him or hate him, and let's be real, it's mostly hate. You can't deny that the man knows how to make a statement. And his weapon of choice? You guessed it, tariffs. In his first term, Trump slapped tariffs on everything from solar panels to washing machines, mostly targeting China. It was like he was playing a high-stakes game of whack-a-mole, but with entire industries instead of moles. And in his second term, he doubled down, raising tariffs on Chinese goods to a whopping 145%. That's not a typo, folks. 145%. It was like he was trying to win a trade war by sheer force of will. But it wasn't just China in the crosshairs. Trump also targeted allies like the European Union, Canada, and Mexico. It was like he was trying to make new enemies at the same speed he was alienating old ones. Even some Arab countries got hit with tariffs because, well, why not? It was a global tariff free-for-all and nobody was safe. So what was the impact of all this tariffing? Well, for starters, prices went up. Like way up. Remember those cheap Chinese electronics you used to love? Yeah, those are gone now. And those affordable imported cars? Say goodbye to those too. It was like Trump had declared war on affordable goods, and the American consumer was caught in the crossfire. But it wasn't just consumers who felt the pain. American businesses were hit hard too. Farmers lost markets for their crops, manufacturers faced higher costs for raw materials, and the stock market took a nosedive. It was like the entire American economy had come down with a nasty case of the tariff flu, and the rest of the world wasn't feeling so hot either. China, the main target of Trump's trade war, retaliated with its own tariffs, hurting American businesses and farmers. The European Union, Canada, and Mexico also responded with tariffs, creating a domino effect of economic chaos. It was like the entire global trading system was having a nervous breakdown. Now, you might think that faced with a barrage of tariffs, the rest of the world would just roll over and surrender. But you'd be wrong. Because while Trump might have been a fan of the art of the deal, other countries had a few tricks up their sleeves too. China, for instance, wasn't about to take this lying down. They slapped retaliatory tariffs on American goods, making life difficult for US farmers and businesses. But they didn't stop there. They started cozying up to other countries, strengthening trade ties with Europe, Africa, and other parts of Asia. It was like watching a geopolitical game of Risk, with China strategically building alliances and expanding its influence. And the European Union? They weren't exactly thrilled about being on the receiving end of Trump's tariffs either. While they initially tried to negotiate, they also made it clear that they weren't afraid to retaliate. They slapped tariffs on American goods and started looking for ways to become more self-sufficient. It was like they were channeling their inner Beyoncé, singing, "If you liked it, then you should have put a tariff on it." Here's a scary thought. What if Trump's tariffs, despite their chaotic nature, actually ended up helping China? I know, right? It seems counterintuitive, like saying that eating a whole cheesecake will help you lose weight. But hear me out. See, when you push someone to their limit, they often surprise you. And that's exactly what China's been doing. Faced with tariffs, they've been forced to innovate, to become more self-reliant, and to strengthen ties with other countries. They're pouring money into research and development, boosting domestic consumption, and building new trade routes across Asia, Africa, and Europe. It's like they're playing a long game, one where short-term pain could lead to long-term gain. Sure, they're feeling the pinch now, but they're also adapting and evolving. And in the process, they're becoming a more formidable economic power, one that's less reliant on the United States and more connected to the rest of the world. So, in a weird, twisted way, Trump's tariffs might have inadvertently helped create a more powerful rival. Irony. Thy name is trade war. Now let's be fair here. Not everyone thinks Trump's tariffs were a terrible idea. Some argue that they were necessary to protect American jobs and industries from unfair foreign competition. They say that China has been playing fast and loose with trade rules for years, stealing intellectual property and flooding the market with cheap goods. And they argue that tariffs were the only way to level the playing field and bring back manufacturing jobs to America. But others argue that tariffs are a blunt instrument, a sledgehammer used to crack a nut. They say that tariffs hurt American consumers and businesses more than they help, driving up prices and causing economic uncertainty. They argue that there are better ways to address trade imbalances and protect intellectual property, such as negotiation, diplomacy, and strengthening international trade rules. So, who's right? It's a complex issue with no easy answers. But one thing's for sure, Trump's tariffs have had a profound impact on the global economy, creating winners and losers and reshaping the balance of power in ways we're only beginning to understand. So, what does the future hold for tariffs and global trade? Will we continue down a path of protectionism, building economic walls and engaging in tit-for-tat trade wars? Or will we find a way to cooperate and build bridges, creating a more open and interconnected global economy? The answer, my friends, is up to us. Tariffs are a tool, and like any tool, they can be used for good or for evil. It all depends on the intentions of those wielding them. If we use them wisely, as a way to promote fair trade and protect our interests, they can be a valuable asset. But if we use them recklessly, as a weapon to punish our rivals and isolate ourselves from the world, they could lead to economic ruin. So let's choose wisely. The future of the global economy depends on it. And nobody wants to live in a world where the only thing we have to trade is tariffs. Except maybe that guy selling "I survived the trade war" t-shirts. He's probably doing pretty well right now.